Right, I see 7 o'clock.
You can do some training.
Yep.
Okay.
We're gonna stand for the pledge.
Yes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone to the board meeting. Dave, do you have any questions on attendance?
Oh, yes. What is your name?
Me, Vicki Finovich.
Okay.
Should be open. Stacy Klein and Jill.
I think you have to hang up the.
Yes, I can go just if you turn off the phone, might be off.
All right, so does anybody have any additions or corrections to the board agenda?
I had a couple corrections and an addition. First, in my report, I was made aware of a board committee report, so I've added that to the superintendent's report. We have communications that's coming around from Stacy Klein, that should be in the orange folder. And then in the board reports and education schedule, I just updated names from people who retired or are no longer with the district. And then in the committee's report, I had 2 errors. I had 2 titles wrong of board members, and then we had an opening now on community education.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Open forum. Rules for open forum. 3 minutes per speaker. Open forum shall not take more than a total of 15 minutes. No complaints about individual staff members. All presenters will conduct their business in a manner that meets community standards for decorum. The board will not take action on items presented in open forum. Brian, did anybody sign up? Does anybody wish to speak during open forum? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone need anything pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion? Brian, have you added anything? So nothing has been added and no polls. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move that.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is bills. If you have a question on the bill, please state the page number and the bill number.
I have a question on page 9. The resource training and membership fees.
I believe that is because of our health and safety that we have with our head of maintenance, but I will double check that tomorrow and get back to you. But I believe that's because they help us with our health and safety things.
Okay.
Anybody else? If no other questions, I'm looking for a motion to pay the bills.
I'll move that.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is superintendent's report.
You can see upcoming meetings for me and for the school board. The one I added that I made mention at the beginning of the meeting was there's a governing board meeting for Heather coming up on July 18th. And then July 26th, we have the Pine County Education Leadership Meeting. All of you are invited. This time it is in Hinckley. We're hosting, it's our turn. It'll be 6 p.m. probably up in the library, because usually we have about 20 people or so that come, and I don't think we can seat and eat and feed 20 people in this room. So check your calendars, let me know if you're able to come to that. Then the next couple things, just an update on our concurrent enrollment, kids who are taking college classes here. This year on campus, HF students had access to 32 classes, 76 kids in grades 10 through 12 took those classes with comparable, how many sections, how many hours, 232 of them by these 76 students. So some of the classes, or some of the new classes that we'll have next year, we just approved is the Native American Literature class. Comparing these numbers to last year, the year before we had 80 students take classes, so 4 less the current year we just finished, but the same number of sections. And 2 years ago we had 71 students, and that year we had 297 sections. That one was higher. We still had, I think, psych in the building that we were taking via ITV. And then the last one in my report, just updating you on where the district attendance was for the year. This is all buildings, all grades, all levels. We came back up to 91%, which, you know, during the COVID years, you can see where we were in the 80s. So I'm happy to see that we're back in the 90s. We still strive to get to 95%, but I'm happy to see that our attendance is back in the 90%, at 91%. Well, that's it for my report this month.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian?
Brian, I had a question from ex-East Central School Board member about us sending our band to like Sandstone Quarry Days and then sending down, which we used to do, and I think it used to be no cost.
Yeah.
I know a few years ago, East Central actually charged to play in their own band, so I don't know, but they suggest that, and I don't think they even have a band this summer, do they?
Yeah, I know they hired a band teacher. I don't know if they're doing, I know they had said they were canceling marching band. I don't know if that ended up happening, because I know they hired a band teacher, but no.
It was canceled.
Okay.
I think it would be good PR on both ends, and maybe even Finlayson and Asco could be a.
I can reach out to their superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Next up is communications.
We have communications. I think you've all seen it. It's in that orange folder from a hockey parent.
Did everybody get to see it?
I still have to take a look at it.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the letter from the hockey parents? We'll give Toby a chance. Did any of you guys want to speak? Or you want to wait till we get to
The hockey piece.
the hockey piece?
Yeah, if there's any questions.
Since the letter, is attached to the hockey piece, I'll just let Toby finish reading and then we'll move on.
I've read it.
Alright. So next up is budget calendar.
Yep, just update kind of where we're at. We're obviously at the very beginning of the new fiscal year, so we are working on ordering and making sure all the budgeted materials are being purchased. The capital budget's being put in place now that we're into July, and then we're watching enrollment for class sizes, for do we have enough teachers, and just kind of keeping our eye out on what's coming in as far as enrollments and kids who will be in what classrooms. So that is what we're really focusing on from the budget standpoint.
Does anybody have any questions? Did you go over board policy?
I go over board policy.
Is that where we are?
They're on new business.
New business.
Want to go to letter B?
Sure.
Okay. Recommend continuing our practice of having board meetings on the second Monday of every month at 7 p.m. and continuing the rotation between Hinckley and Finlayson, alternating months. There's also been a 3-hour time limit in the past unless there's a unanimous vote taken to extend the meeting. And with that, for the meeting details, we'll have the same report schedule as far as who's coming to the meetings from the leadership side. It's the same exact schedule we use this year, just has updated names of who are in these positions. And then number 2, you can see the policy review cycle we have. These mostly are coming out by MSBA's recommendations of what policies need to be updated or included. Many of the ones we're doing, especially this month and next, are to get in place before the school year starts, so we can make sure our student handbooks and faculty handbooks and policies are up to date before the start of the new school year.
All right, are there any questions about the board reports or the board policy review cycle? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is committees.
We do not have a committee policy. Certainly if the board wants me to look into that, we certainly can. Past practice with board committees is that board members request committees and the board chair appoints members to each committee. You can see the list of committees that we have. We have current opening in community education and in teacher negotiations. Those are the openings that I'm aware of at this time that we do need to fill.
I'll be on negotiation. What are you looking for volunteers right now?
Put Dave on teacher negotiations.
I would do community ed if nobody else wanted to do that.
Brian, do you have me marked down for the same committees as previous?
Yes, otherwise this list is the exact same as what it was this school year, yes.
Okay.
So it would be teaching and learning C and SCRAD alternative, Toby.
Say that again.
It's teaching and learning C and the alternate for SCRAD.
Yes, that's good.
So we need a motion then to the new board committees.
I'll make the motion.
Motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Can I just say something on the board committees? Is there any chance we could look into maybe that MSB policy, model policy 213 regarding board committees? For me, I think it would be helpful if we had a list of all the committees and any new school board members in the future. I'm sure it would be helpful for them to know what committees are available. And maybe we could even put it on our website, what board members are assigned to what committee. That way constituents might better know which board member to direct their questions to as it might pertain to a certain committee.
Policy 213, you said?
Yes, policy 213.
We have a list, maybe it's just not public,
It's not on the website. I can certainly get it on the website.
but this is the same as what we had in January.
Correct.
Thank you, Toby.
Yep.
Next up is proposed fees.
I'll go through each one of them, and I guess if you have questions, we'll do that one at a time. Instrument rental, I'm not recommending any changes. Our current fee is $50. Recommend stay at $50. Not a lot of comparables. Only 3 other school districts responded to the comparables for instrument rentals. That average was $50. Our students go through Music Connection, most of them, in Forest Lake, not recommending any changes to instrument rental. Driver's ed. Last year we raised this, I'm recommending stay the same at $250. The local average you can see is higher than what we have at $371. Some of that cost is because some schools do charge the classroom part. We do not charge the classroom part. We have that as part of our 9th grade curriculum, but recommending the driver's ed behind the wheel part stay at $250. Athletic participation, we currently charge a fee of $45. Recommend moving that up to $50. Local average is $100. However, Mora and East Central are at $50. 13 schools reported that. Recommending goes up a little, just to kind of match some of the transportation costs and the other costs that go into athletics. And very similarly, have an increase for non-sports activities fees. They're currently at $25, recommending moving that to $30. The local average for these are $58, and out of 9 schools that reported, and these would be for one act play, FCCLA knowledgeable, the plays, FFA, robotics. We've historically kept our fees a little less than our neighbors, just to encourage more participation, and be respectful of some members of our community. But I'm recommending a $5 increase for both athletic and non-sports activities. I guess I'll go to 5 and then I'll take a pause. With that, because the fees went up, recommending the family max move from $120 to $130, just to kind of offset that additional sports fees. Local average is much higher than ours, but I think that's good in a way, one of the reasons why we have a lot of kids out for sports and activities. Questions on those first 5?
I have a question on the instrument rental. Does our district own any instruments?
We do. We purchase 1 or 2 a year typically. So we have some if we don't have the right instruments, if kids can't. So yes, we do purchase some, but we don't have enough for a band of 40, 50 kids.
But I mean, then the kids who use our instruments, do they still pay the rental fee?
No. Oh, yes, they do, sorry. Yes, if they rent from us, yes, they do. Otherwise, they could buy from they'd buy their own and pay their own fee. But yeah, if they use ours, they pay that fee.
That combined fee max, is that per family or per student?
Student.
There's not a family.
There's not a family, it's a student, it's an athlete max.
And are these 7 through 12?
7 through 12. Next one is hockey in our co-op sports. Currently, parents are billed for any amount over $1,000. Parents pay $150 upfront payment before the first practice. Participation we've never had this, but participation would be denied if the previous bill is not paid in full. This $1,000 has been in place since hockey co-op started. One parent, and I think we have some more here, had specifically asked the board to consider covering more of this cost. This $1,000 has probably been in place at least as long as I've been here, and it's probably stayed at $1,000. But one parent specifically came to me asking the board to consider raising this. On the other, for boys hockey specifically, there has not been for the last few years fee for girls hockey, as the boosters there help pay that price. As you can see in the list, the boys hockey fees have moved well above $1,000. This last school year, there was not a cost for wrestling, since it was for the families, since it was under $1,000. And this year we did not have any students participate in gymnastics, so there was not a fee there. On the girls hockey side, the girls hockey states that the boosters pay about $750 per year. But for boys hockey, you can see the list of where the fees were and where they've gotten to this past year. Families had to pay $1,542, which is above, in addition to the $1,000 that the district spent for, I believe we had 2 hockey players, maybe 3 this year.
Do we know what our football, we used to base this on the highest sport, which was football. Do we know what our cost of that is
I
right now?
didn't know what we compared it to, so I compared it to other winter sports.
Okay.
Our basketball, we spend about 1,500 per athlete.
I believe it was football, if I remember right. I don't know what that figure is, so.
I'm guessing it's higher than that because of
think
the
so.
cost of football. I can check if the board wants me to. I compared it to the other winter sports, and for basketball, we spend about 1,500 per athlete. I don't know if the board wants to have more conversation about hockey, or
Does I guess maybe I would just like to ask, does anybody have any questions regarding the letter to the ladies that are here from Pine City Hockey? Or their children?
I just wanna add to them also being $50 pledge also, or 45, but
And we're also paying any additional fees that they play, so if they play football, we're paying that fee. If they're paying baseball, we're paying those fees as well. So not only are we doing hockey fee, we're doing every additional sports fee. They're bigger.
My only question regarding the letter is, it doesn't really specify the cost in it. Like, I don't know that it's our board's responsibility to help pay for an ALC space for Pine City.
Correct.
That would be my concern with what is wrote in the letter, but I would like to see it maybe broken down a little more.
So that letter just happened to be sent out last week.
So that was just to Pine City parents, not Hinckley? Or
All hockey parents.
all of you? Okay.
And so.
Do you understand what I'm saying though?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, that the ALC has nothing to do with the Pine City hockey program,
Okay.
right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, if that's the reason why the costs are going up or they don't have that lease anymore, is that why the cost of ice time is going up because they need to cover that? Or the remodel of it? Or I guess I would just like more information.
I think it has to do also they didn't have a girls program until 2017?
No, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Program.
Okay, so that program has been building and is growing very fast to where that's also taking ice time and, wear and tear on the building and the ice and repairing all of that, and just as well as the teams that have been there, all the boys teams that have been there and the youth programs that have been there as well.
But our girls don't go to Pine City, correct? They go north.
Looks like,
Okay. So that would be my only question is.
when I checked with our AD, she thought that the higher price was also because of more increased ice time. And she thought that this year the hockey team got new jerseys. I don't know how much that would affect it. I don't know if that's what our AD told me is one of the, or some of the reasons the price
Correct,
is
and I
lower.
was told that the Pine City School pays for those.
Okay, so the jerseys wouldn't be part of that,
Correct.
but there has been
So it should be
increased
relative
price.
to winter sports though, right, Leo? Or why would we compare it to football?
And we compared it to football because that was the highest cost sport at the time. And I believe it always will be.
Yeah.
So that's why we thought it was fair to come up with that figure.
Okay.
Take the highest cost sport and then anything above that, parents have to pay.
Okay. So then you can do some checking.
Want me to check into what the cost for football is?
If that's what Leo says.
Yeah,
I think it should go off a winter sport, but I don't get why.
It's just more expensive sport than basketball.
Oh, I get it.
Football
Okay,
and
Right.
More comparable because of equipment.
Okay.
One other question, as the parents too, since they have to pay anything over 1,000, have they always then had to pay that in addition to the other events for football and basketball?
Ever since I've been here, yeah.
So it seems like that's kind of a lot. If we have a max of 130 per student.
Yeah, we'll have to either bring it back in August.
When you do the motion, you'll have to specifically talk about hockey. Admissions to events I left the same after doing some comparisons for $6 for adults, $3 for students. Adult pass stays the same at $45, student pass stays the same at $25. Senior citizens 65 and older are free, school board members and a guest are free, and then all Hinckley-Finlayson staff remain being free. The iPad laptop rental, our current fee is $25, recommend move to $30, but keep the family max at $100. Just looking at what the 9-district average is there, it's a little higher than ours. We are working on policy for this for accidental damage versus maybe not accidental damage, which we'll have for you in future board meetings, but for accidental damage, this would help cover some of that cost. And I think that's it for that category of fees.
Okay, so we'll get more information on hockey, boys hockey specifically. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the fees for less hockey.
I'll make a motion to approve the fees and less hockey.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll have hockey back in August for you guys to consider.
Next up is mileage rate.
Recommend going with the IRS rate of 62.5 cents per mile. Past practice, our district has followed IRS guidelines. This is what their current guidelines are.
Is there any questions regarding the federal mileage rate? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept the IRS mileage rate.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
If there's a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is substitute pay.
Recommend keeping our substitute pay the same, starting at $155, but moving to $170 after the substitute subs 10 times. $77.50 minimum for half-day substitute teaching. Also recommend starting teachers who retired from Hinckley-Finlayson at $170 and moving them to $180 after 10 days. Doing some local comparisons, the local average right now is 153 with 26 schools that reported. I'm also recommending that we continue to pay the substitute's background check and substitute license if they sub 10 times or more. These are the same terms we had for the school year we just completed.
Anybody have any questions?
Do we know what our neighbors are paying for their subs?
I could pull it. They haven't done theirs yet. I mean, what they reported.
But I mean, like from last year.
Correct.
It's similar to ours.
Correct. I believe the essential was the same.
Have subs been an issue?
I don't think it's because of what we pay. I think it's because there's just not many out there. So yeah, subs are an issue. I didn't hear it was because of our pay. Just there's so few out there.
So if there's no more questions, I'm looking for a motion to accept the substitute teacher pay.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is meal recommendation price.
Yep, this is a little different than years past. As we've talked about, the state government's gonna pay for breakfast and lunch, so I just shared with you what our rate was for the school year we just finished, for both breakfast and lunch. And just some notes, our milk bids, as we know, did increase with moving to a new vendor. Our past student lunch rates, just so you can see where we've been. This past year we were at $3 per student. This year we don't need to set a lunch or breakfast price for students, as the state government's gonna cover that cost. The current state recommendation that we have for adult lunch is at $4.95. So what we really need to figure out, or my recommendations are for the adult breakfast, the adult lunch and milk price. That would not be included in the standard lunch that you get, adult or student. So my recommendation is the adult breakfast be at $3, adult lunch at $5, and then milk, moving that from a quarter to 50 cents. The state hasn't released any new recommendations, so I did put that last year we did have to come back in August because they released those recommendations after. The only thing they would release is adult costs, but they haven't released that yet.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the meal recommendations? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept the meal recommendations.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the employee board member meal reimbursements.
Not recommending any changes. These are what we have in place currently. $9 for breakfast, $12 reimbursement for lunch, and $17 for dinner. They were, like you can see, last raised in 2010-11.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept the employee board member meal reimbursement.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is school board compensation.
Not recommending any changes. You can see the pay for school board members based on roles and meetings. Last time some of the things were changed. Special meeting rate was changed last in 2010-11. Officer pay increased in the year 2013-14. Last year the board raised the chair pay. Mileage is paid as the official rate from meeting site to from home to meeting site. And just a reminder that payment claim forms must be turned in by the 1st of the month in order to process that. And then mileage forms should be turned in monthly. Mileage not turned in for over 60 days is taxable.
Are there any questions regarding the school board compensation? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept the school board compensation.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the official newspaper.
Recommend continuing with North Pine County News as our official newspaper. Their rates have gone up. This year we just finished, what we approved last year at this time was $3,800. The new approximation is about $5,000. And we have to have a school newspaper. We've used it more. Their rates have gone up for width per column and things like that. That is the reasons for the change that they gave us.
Do you know what our actual cost was last?
This was budgeted off our cost, so plus with their increase they gave us.
Okay, because I remember last year it was so off.
Yep. We took our costs that we spent and then added their increase to get to this $5,000.
Alright,
Would it be legal to do it in Evergreen, which most of our people would get? That could be considered legal paper or not?
I don't know if Evergreen,
Oh.
I did.
I get it.
Yeah, I think everybody, Finlayson's getting it, I believe.
Yeah.
In the mail, right?
I can look.
It's owned by the same company. I don't know. I should have asked you that earlier, but I never thought of it.
Certainly look in if that's an official newspaper.
It's advertisers, so I don't know.
I don't know if they would post news, for our, like, elections and our school board notes, things like that. I don't know that they post things like that.
I've never seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know for the legal stuff that we have to post that they would qualify.
Can we go with it if we make a motion and get it passed and you find out different, we could change it or something?
So then I'm looking for a motion to accept the official newspaper as the North Pine County News.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up are two policies.
recommending approval of both these. The first one, 807, we are required to have this policy. This is our health and safety for our buildings, our facilities, regarding asbestos, fire and safety, all the things that we're required to do from a health and safety standpoint, and recommending approval of the second one, the overdose medication for Narcan, with the new legislation coming out where we have to have Narcan. Feel it's good to have this policy in place since we're bringing in some new things that we haven't experienced in our school district.
Any questions regarding the health and the safety policy or the overdose medication policy? If not, I am looking for a motion to accept both policies as presented.
I'll make a motion.
No, second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up are the first reads for 6 policies for August.
And I know 6 is more than we usually do, but I wanted to get these ones approved because they'll go into the principal's handbooks when they bring those to approval for you in August. Most of these are the changes from legislation, changes in wording coming out of the legislation that happened this spring. So that's where most of these changes are coming from.
Any discussion? All right, moving on to the MSBA self-board evaluation.
So this spring, we completed the self-board evaluation. If you remember when we got the results, they were not terribly helpful on next steps. So recommending that we schedule time to work with MSBA. They'll come work with us at one training that would consist of 2 to 3 hours. You can see the price is $1,095. So recommending we look to find dates that match for the school board and MSBA to go through that evaluation.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept the MSBA support.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
There's a motion.
This is only if we can all be there, right? No? Okay.
I think it's more beneficial if we're all there.
Right.
Have we talked to any other school districts that have used the MSBA review, and what kind of feedback did those other schools have on that review with MSBA?
Shelly and I heard a couple at the MSBA conference in January talk about how helpful it was, and then they brought it into their strategic planning.
Yeah, they do so often.
Yeah.
Cause looking back to, I think it said last time we did a self-evaluation was in 2017.
We hadn't done one in quite a while, and I don't know in my time if the board's ever done it with MSBA's help. Not that I'm aware of.
I think it would definitely answer a lot of questions.
Sure.
So there was a motion and second, right, Dave? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So now, do you wanna set a
Do you wanna-
date, or
Or do you want me to reach out to MSBA and get dates from them? I knew they just said in general they had some openings in July. They didn't give me date specifics. In August they did as well, but I'm guessing they fill up as we get closer.
alright, so you're gonna email us
Oh.
like tomorrow?
I will find out the dates they have in July and August and send you an email like tomorrow. For sure by Friday's update.
Okay. Okay, next up is the election calendar.
As you may saw, either on our school Facebook page or in the newspaper, we have put out our notice of filing. We have 3 board member positions that will be open this fall. So notice for people to file is August 1st through August 15th. The school board doesn't need to take action on this. We need to do this with or without school board action. So this is just so you can see it at the board meeting. We have done this, we've posted, and now we're kind of waiting to see who puts their name into the hat.
Does anybody have any questions? All right. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of a student Minnesota State High School League violation and confidential discussion with legal counsel regarding the same. In order to consider this item, the board must review and discuss educational data regarding the student. The open meeting law, Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 2A3 states that any portion of a meeting must be closed if educational data are discussed. Additionally, the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B allows the school board to close a meeting to engage in attorney-client privilege discussions. During the closed session, the board seeks to meet with its attorney to obtain confidential legal advice related to the ramifications of a student Minnesota State High School League violation. There is a need for absolute confidentiality because the district's position would be compromised if such discussions took place in public and could be overheard by adverse parties. It is in the district's best interest for the board to obtain legal advice in a confidential setting to maintain the attorney-client privilege. Pursuant to the laws I have cited, I will now hereby entertain a motion that this meeting be closed for the purpose of discussing a student Minnesota State High School League violation and for the purpose of having a confidential discussion with legal counsel regarding the same.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?